if they had not put the blood over the door mantle, they wouldn't have come out. The firstborn was cursed to die. And here he's saying in verse 5, for the earth has been defiled. Why? Because they have not kept. Let me read it. For the earth has been defiled under its inhabitants. Every one of us can go under that title. Inhabitants. We inhabit the earth. We live in the earth. He told us to take dominion and subdue it. Follow the principles that he has already set forth. 7 days he made the earth and the heavens. 6 days. 7th day he rested. He didn't do anything. There is an order of redemption here that is in this. So, while we're here, let's do this. Let's start looking at the other side now. Let's look at those who are obedient, because we've heard the other side, because they were not obedient, because they did not obey. Let's look what happens if you obey. 25, yes, and verse 6.
And in this mountain Yahweh of hosts shall make for all people a feast of choice pieces, a feast of old wine, of choice pieces with marrow of old wine, well refined.
All right. So now we're going to start looking at, where are we in this? He says that he's preparing a feast for others. And you can stay right there. If you have your scriptures open, look at chapter 24 and verse 15. Therefore praise Yahweh in the east, the name of Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, in the coastlands and the seas. From the ends of the earth we shall hear songs of splendor to the righteous one. But I say, I waste away, I waste away. Woe to me! The treacherous betray with deep treachery and treacherous betrayal. These are people, we can probably say, defied foolish, because some are being delivered while others are being destroyed. And these are the messages that we get in Revelation. And I understand why, it scares us to read it. But it also says, blessed is he who reads it. It's not telling you that you have to understand everything right now, because you may understand it by and by. But the thing is, read it and understand your future if you don't obey everything that comes before that. So, we need to know, who are we? Casting out bread. You cast out bread, there's fish that's going to eat it. But he said there's a return that's going to happen. Maybe it's the fish that will return. I remember reading about Yeshua telling the disciples to cast their net on the right-hand side, and after having trouble all night long, they brought in 153 fish. And they shall be known as the sons and daughters of Elohim.
Hallelujah.
153 they mean by saying there were so many, so much, so heavy that they had to call in another boat to help bring it in. Bring it in. Return. So something is happening with a law of return. And the first part of it started with coming out of a people who are enslaved. Yes, but they were not enslaved when they went into Egypt. They went in there free. And Father brought them out of bondage. But there's another people who were enslaved, then mistreated. Enslaved, then mistreated. According to Deuteronomy, it tells us, chapter 28, and going through there, different verses, 39, 41, 68, different verses. You see in there that it says, if you do not obey, I will place you on slave ships, send you into another land that you know not of. You will have a wife, another shall take her. You will have children, but your arms will long for them all the day. They are sold off into captivity. When I started looking at this, I just broke. I said, this is my people. This is the history that I'm used to hearing. I'm 51 years old. I was born in 1960. I don't have a whole lot of memory about a lot of the oppression because my father, he could probably tell more, but from his treatment, he left the South and took us north. And this is basically what I know. He didn't speak a whole lot more other than that. But I know he left the South because of racial inequality, the mistreatment. We'd come back to visit because we have family here. I don't remember black bathrooms and white bathrooms. I didn't see that. But I was alive when they said it happened. I didn't see anyone hanging from a tree. Cursed is every man that hangs from a tree. So there's got to be something that's tied to this. There has to be a curse. I know I'm blessed and highly favored. I know I heard all of it. But there is something that tells me if I look back, if I trace some events and maybe some people, maybe if I trace just maybe what they taught me about this lady called Harriet Tubman, they called her Black Moses. Maybe if I look back hard enough in my heritage, then it will teach me traces of who I am. We are somebody. We've been told that. But now what we have to do is understand that we are somebody. And if we are somebody, what should we do? Send out your bread into the waters, and after many days, it shall return. But just in case we miss that, then maybe should we go to something that we can start to try to understand, that maybe if I eat the Passover bread, that when the destruction of the 7 messengers, we call them messengers, because they come back and forth from the earth to heaven, and they bring the information, and they take the information. Angels, Catholicism. If we know that Revelation has to be true because this is the testimony of Yeshua, then we have to know that it's going to happen. merely because of the fact it hasn't happened yet. The waters have not turned into blood again. It has before, but when? Passover is when the waters turn to blood. But he's telling us it's going to happen again. Do we choose to believe it? Or do we just wait and not put the blood over our door? Somebody was there when he said, let us make man. And I just believe him, y'all. I just believe that he's probably right. That he's the light, the S-O-N. When he tells us, over here, I'm going to let loose 7 messengers. And they're going to have 7 trumpets. What are the trumpets for? To call. Because there's a feast that's going to happen. Let me just do this, and I'm going to close with this. I'm not going to go into anything else. I think I have enough of this out. Go to Matthew 22, verse 2.
The reign of the heavens is like a man, a sovereign, who made a wedding feast for his son, and sent out his servants to call those who were invited.
Just keep reading to
the
14.
wedding feast. But they would not come. Again he sent out other servants, saying, say to those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatted cattle are slaughtered, and all is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they disregarded it and went their way, this one to his field, that one to his trade. And the rest, having seized his servants, insulted and killed them. But when the sovereign heard, he was wroth, and sent out his soldiers, destroyed those murderers, and set their city on fire. Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast indeed is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore, go into the street corners, and as many as you find, invite them to the wedding feast. For those servants went out into the street corners, and gathered all whom they found, both wicked and good. And the wedding hall was filled with guests. And when the sovereign came in to view the guests, he saw there a man who had not put on his wedding garment. And he said to him, friend, how did you come in here not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. And then the sovereign said to the servant, bind him hand and foot, take him away, and throw him out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.
I really need not say anything else, really. But just in case there's some things, let me just point out some elements. And I really won't go through each of them. I just spit some out that I know you'll catch. First of all, he sent out his servant. And he invited to the wedding feast. And he sent him out again. And then he sent him out again, and again, and again. And I looked at this. There's another witness over in Luke, the 14th chapter, that would pretty much read the same way. But there are some elements there that are different. And I was very torn as to which one I wanted to use. And not until I spoke it, I went to one. I spent a lot of hours going back and forth. No, I can't leave this out. I can't leave that out. But this is the point. Here, he says, come to the wedding feast 7 times. 7 times. And this is what makes the difference between the two. But 7 times He says, come to the wedding feast. But then, 2 of those 7, he said, wedding garment. Friend, you've had 7 days to prepare. Know ye not that 1,000 years as but one day, and one day is as 1,000 years? There's coming a time that there will be no more time. No more opportunity. So, friend, you call me friend. Friend, Abraham, the seed of Abraham. Abraham, know for certain that your seed will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs. But they will be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years. Make no mistake about it. Know for certain. Yes. In the day that man sin, he shall surely die. And Adam died. Yes, 930 years. $930 years, a deficit of 70 years being less than one day. But if we add this 9 and 3 up, someone just kind of add that up for me. How much is that? We got 7 here. We got 12 here. Abraham. The 12 tribes came out of Abraham. And 7 days to gather all of the house of Israel. But here's what he said. 6 days you work. But on the 7th day it's a Sabbath. Cease from all your work and rest. Then another time he said, 6 years you work the land. But on the 7th, going into the 7th year, I will give you 3 years worth. So you will be putting out the old to bring in the new, because you would have so much. But when you get to the 6th year, leave it for the poor, that they may glean. You do no work on it. So could it be that every generation is being gleaned and gathered as we die to our fathers? And we go through judgment upon death, waiting till all be done. There has to be a millennial reign. Seven days. Looking at the feast days, of which we're celebrating the 7 times 7 now, the Feast of Weeks. When do we eat the Passover bread? The unleavened bread. Unleavened bread. When do we eat the unleavened bread? On Passover. But he says, for 7 days, starting with this day here, you eat unleavened bread. There's a hidden something on this side. There's an 8th day that's not being mentioned. Because when you start eating unleavened bread, you start on Passover. And then over here, there's a time of the call. Feast of Trumpets. The calling of the bride. The bride is called. Day of Atonement happens. And he said, and we read this a little while ago, Isaiah chapter 24, 25, where he says, there's a feast being prepared for you. And if you read that, it's going to go more into detail. He's saying how I'm gathering you from where I scattered you. And I will bring you here to this mountain, to this land, and I shall give it to you, and you shall possess the land. Your sons and daughters shall marry the land. Meaning what? The land will give its produce to you. When he says, I will give you the best, the choice of all. But see, on the other hand, the trumpets, the bowls of evils are being poured out upon the earth. So what should we do? We got to eat the bread. We got to eat the bread. He said this is a covenant forever. And because you in the wilderness did not obey, this is why they had to be scattered again. He already knew that there was going to be a time of 400 years before the 430 years even happened. That wasn't a mistake. He's pointing to when he's going to bring all of Israel. Some 30, some 60, some 100-fold. During this time, all of Israel will be brought in. But what should we do? The master invited us to a feast. He sent out his servants.